Welcome to Above the Garage.
Hi, friends. Welcome to our discussion of Succession, Season 4, Episode 8. This episode is entitled Election Night and was written by Jesse Armstrong and directed by Andrzej Patriarch. Let's do our round of introductions and dive in.
Hi, I'm Megan.
Hi, I'm Violet.
Hi, I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Kate. God, this episode was brutal to watch as an American. The one thing I will say, though, is that they're absolutely incredible at producing anxiety, like the physical kind.
Oh, yeah.
Even though you know it's a show, I was like, Dave, I'm so uncomfortable watching this.
I mean, I think it also just flashes us all back to exactly how we felt
Yeah.
in our actual election night.
It's like PTSD.
Yeah, it hits too close to home. This episode, it just so uncomfortable. I could have popped it like a Xanax or something. I'm like, I need something. I need something to help calm me down because it was
like a beat by beat flashback of real life.
Yeah,
cool.
Right.
Oh, I'm like, this is too much.
It was very triggering. They did an amazing job at combining 2016 and 22 elections and the media, just all these things, like you said, that actually happened or are even happening, probably. Or about to happen. Just all of it. Oh man.
Don't say that.
No, I hope it's not. But yeah, the planting of the big lie and the media. And it's really hard to watch the behind the scenes of that too. You know, we didn't see the newsroom angle. So it was interesting.
Yeah, it kind of makes you go there's literally nothing you can do. There's no hope for anything.
No.
It's very
right.
It made me feel really cynical, I guess.
Yes.
It was very much like the 2000 election, the Gore Bush, because that was run by the newsroom. That was called by Fox News by John Ellis, who was actually Bush's first cousin. So they were the ones who called it. And then it went to the Supreme Court, Bush versus Gore. And then the 5 justices, they put an axe to it. So there was really there's nothing that could be done. It was called, done.
That election, more than any, Gore won the popular vote by a large margin, right?
A large amount.
But obviously that's not what is relevant here. But
he didn't even know what was going on because he was just dealing with Fox News calling it, and he conceded. And then he recanted on that when he found out, oh my gosh, I'm so close. And then they're like, it doesn't matter, boo, it was called.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. That's how powerful the newsroom is.
Yeah.
I do remember being surprised in 2020, though. I think Fox called it for Biden before anyone else, actually. And that was weird for everybody. Very unexpected, you know?
I do remember that. You're like, well, the tables have turned.
Yeah. But a lot of trauma for everybody in this, at least the Americans. You're okay, right, Kimberly? No trauma for you?
Well, kind of, because obviously, for me personally, it just reminded me of Trump because I don't really know much about. I remember hearing about Al Gore and how he was fucked over.
Yeah, the Trump Mencken.
I'm not really a political person. Especially American politics. I don't know much about.
May I assume that the world was shocked, though, the morning after the election when Trump won in 2016?
Oh, yeah. I actually originally thought it was a joke.
Yeah, we hoped it was.
If only.
But yeah, I couldn't believe it. Obviously, I was just like, damn, the guy from Celebrity Apprentice is going to be the president.
Well, and it was so much worse because the polls had all predicted, the polls had all said that he was going to lose.
Yeah.
And they were all very wrong. And we were trusting of polls back then. So there was just a lot of shock and unpleasantness.
I don't trust polls after that.
Same. I don't trust the CDC after COVID.
I don't care. If somebody's 90% ahead, I'm like, oh, please, that's not enough.
Yeah, I think it was though in that case, it was trusting of polls, but also
who it was.
It seems so ridiculous to imagine that would ever happen that we were just there's no way.
I mean, the whole time everybody was saying that could never happen. Stop worrying about it, right? And then it's
that's insane. Of course not. Right.
The only person that told me that it was going to happen and called it right was my sister, and she has been blessed to basically retire early, and they have their little dream on the river in a smaller area in Minnesota.
Sounds lovely.
And she's like, I'm telling you, driving from the cities, to the more rural areas.
Yeah.
She's like, Trump is going to win. He's going to win. I see signs everywhere.
Yeah, Trump's everywhere.
Don't think this is in the bag. She's like, you're in your bubble.
Yeah.
You're going to be blindsided. And then I'm like, no. And then I'm like, oh my God, She was right. Oh,
But even here, like in the South, I thought like kind of the opposite. I was like, well, I'm in a bubble of
Right, Trump.
right, and like the rest of the world is not going for this. So it was like a reverse bubble that I was in here because I had the same thought, but like in reverse. Like I
Right.
saw the signs everywhere, and I was like, this can't be what the rest of the U.S. looks like right now.
Right.
Right.
Just where you live.
So that's interesting.
Yep.
All right. Well, to the episode. The episode opens with Greg checking in on Tom, who is nervous as fuck, as Megan states all the anti-Democrat propaganda in the background, cultural Marxism and whatnot, while Tom sarcastically lists all his many enemies who are out for his head tonight and says his only route to survival is delivering the best election numbers of all time. And Greg's just like, cool, man, I'm feeling chill. But, you know, you're immediately like, you're the news. You can't deliver election numbers, but maybe they can. It's ironic that the episode is called America Decides when you watch these fucking siblings with sibling fights creating, you know, the decision behind the scenes. And it's like, fuck, we're so fucked.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and it's 5 p.m. When the episode starts.
So I have a question.
Yeah,
Do news stations, like, I guess that guy Darwin, right? He was like the expert.
right.
Do news stations have their own like people counting the votes?
No, I think
No,
they
they just have analysts that kind of do projections based on, you know, previous elections. So, you know, things usually don't switch so drastically. So they
Yeah,
do
okay.
like, they know, they're going to know like areas like Detroit or, you know, predominantly vote a certain way just historically. So they can go back and wherever they're throwing out the votes, they can go back and be like, most likely that was all Democratic votes or all Republican votes. So
I do think that there's also somebody like him that probably has open lines to the polls
Mhm.
that everybody's communicating with him specifically information that they can't really like let out, so that like I didn't think about it until I watched this. You know, it's not the Toms of the world actually calling the states. They've got to have somebody, like you said, an expert like that in there getting the information and being the one to officially say, yeah, you can call it,
mhm.
whether they listen to him or not.
Maybe this is obvious, Kimberly, but like once it reaches a certain percentage of votes in for an area, they call it. Like once it's
Mhm.
like close and they're like, even if we had like all votes going in a different direction, like it wouldn't make enough of a difference.
Yeah.
They can
Right.
call it before all the votes are counted in those situations. So that's like what that person is trying to do.
They can guess how many votes are outstanding and add that into and
Yeah.
project from there.
And a lot of the news stations are like fighting for being the one to announce it first, kind of like,
Mhm.
so they're trying to have the best analyst on staff that can figure that out and make the right calls and all that.
Mhm.
I guess the analyst would have to have like inside people, right? Knowing like the poll people counting the votes and stuff.
I think that's what Kay was saying.
Yeah, I think they just have like relationships with all those people
Yeah.
and they've
Mhm.
built these. But yeah, it's kind of a big deal when somebody, I don't know, like during an election day, like I'll get a text from friends like CNN called so-and-so, or, and you know, ultimately in the end, you're waiting for a network to call the
Mhm.
actual winner.
Yeah, that was like at every election. I feel like all of us are just refreshing the list of states to see like which one was the
Yeah.
next to be called
Oh.
and stuff.
I know.
Yeah.
It's very depressing.
Refresh.
Yeah, it is really depressing. It's a horrible feeling.
Then we're with Kendall, who's calling Tom to apply pressure. And this is where we first hear anything about things looking fighty in Milwaukee. But they're only interested in trash on the opposing side. So Tom wants to hear more about the woman who voted 40 times for Jimenez. Shockingly, Pam thinks she's just an unreliable nutcase. Tom wants her on the air anyway, so Pam questions his shoe choice for the long night ahead and waxes poetic about when Sid was here wearing sensible shoes. And then Tom cracks a joke about Sid's cloven hooves not fitting into normal shoes, which I enjoyed.
I know. I chuckled.
Anytime you can say cloven hooves, I feel like
Yeah.
you should take the opportunity.
He also immediately then says, "I've got good arches. They've been remarked upon."
Yeah, it's pretty hilarious. And then when he runs into Darwin, he's staring directly at his shoes, and obviously she's gotten to him.
Yeah.
He's worrying about his sartorial choices for the evening.
Sartorials. Ooh.
I know. I learned that word from Your Honor. It means clothing, so I'm going to use that too.
You get endless points for that.
In the Darwin meeting, we learned Tom continued laying awake after we last saw him last episode. Marital strife and all. Did not get a good night's sleep. But Jesus, Greg's night with Madsen, Some non-consensual dancing with old men, drinking what I can only assume are bodily fluids that aren't typically consumed. And then he tells Tom about the Mats and Shiv alliance. But what was he doing with his hands when he told him that? Was he implying cunnilingus, or is that just like?
Oh,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
right.
Yeah. I thought so. That's where my mind always goes.
I know. We think they haven't hooked up though, right?
I mean,
Yeah, who knows? I guess who
Who
knows, right?
knows?
And
Yeah.
obviously, Tom can believe that they did at this point. Nothing's stopping him.
I still don't think they do, but yeah, I think it wouldn't be a leap for people to assume that at this point if they know like that they've been having a lot of talks on the side.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Greg had like 5,000 good lines in that scene.
What's your favorite?
He took me to some unseemly venues.
Yeah.
I drank things that aren't normally drinks. That one really got me.
It's so fucked up. Poor Greg.
My favorite was when he said, like, you want to fry her ass up when he was talking about Shiv.
About Shiv.
Yeah. You want to fry that egg, that Greg egg.
I was talking to my brother this morning and I was like, Shiv's never been nice to Greg, I don't think. And Andy was like, I think they've only had like 2 conversations in the entirety of the show. Is that possible?
They really don't talk much.
Like early in the first season? That's so crazy.
Yeah, in the second, I think it was the second episode when Roman sends him home to get the papers and Shiv was like, hey, can you just pretend like you didn't find them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then he does it for her.
Yeah.
He's like,
Right.
she's more sassy or whatever, more bossy. So I'm gonna
I
Right.
feel like the only people that talk to Greg are Tom and Kendall. Like otherwise he's totally like overlooked and seen as just a moron cousin.
Right. But I can't believe they don't speak.
Well, Roman talks to him, but he just tells him to like fuck off.
No, Roman loves to jab at him. Yeah.
Right.
yeah. Yeah, you're right though. I guess I can't really remember like other scenes where they interacted much.
Yeah. I mean, I guess she's never felt the need to get him on her side for anything, which she will pay for. And Tom also tells Greg basically to collect and store information that you can then use to smash someone's fucking face in with later. So I guess that's Tom's plan with his recently reunited wife. And Darwin gets to the exciting stuff. Minkin's overperforming in a few states, but they're still expecting Jimenez to win just by a smaller margin. Tom and Greg are also like completely ignoring this meeting. That kind of seems like a meeting that maybe Tom should be participating in or paying attention to, but not so much. Then the kids are hanging out together. Shiv's happy because she got 4 smiley faces from Gil, and Roman and Shiv are fighting over whether Minkin's eggplant flag is greater than or lesser than the worth of the 4 smiley faces, which is an enjoyable debate.
That was great.
Yeah, and she points out how fucking patriarchal the eggplant flag combo is, which I could not agree with more. It's gross.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, Roman's full on Minkin, Trumpian, Shiv's full on Jimenez, and Ken seems surprisingly undecided at the moment. Like,
Yeah.
he wasn't upset when she said that Jimenez was winning. He seemed like cool.
Was Roman always like this? Was he always like a fuckwit like this? Or
I feel like it's shining through more because the politics are so front and center, but he's always had Macon in his pocket kind of.
Right.
Yeah, I remember that, but I didn't realize he was so like, I thought he was kind of just using him as like,
I think Roman doesn't give a shit about the politics.
He's for himself.
Yeah, it's all just about like the company and what is going to benefit him the most, Roman the most, and Ken, what's going to benefit them the most, right?
I think
Right.
him personally, because he's kind of been losing shit lately.
That's true.
Battles and, like he feels like a failure. So now he has this one thing that he has a strong relationship with Minkin. So I think that he's like just going for a win here.
Great point.
He's totally void of ethics. He has absolutely no scruples. It's just business.
that's what I thought. Yeah.
What he can get out of it. He does not care about what goes on in the country with other people.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That really annoyed me, actually.
Yeah.
I didn't like him this episode, like at all, actually.
No, I hated him, and it sucks because he was my favorite here, 2-4.
He did make me laugh as usual, like sometimes with his facial expression and shit like that. But yeah.
His face after that false flag was so funny when she was like, you can't just say false flag about everything. And his face was the best. I think probably in the whole show, that was my favorite face of his.
But yeah, he's representing like what America is now. We don't have scruples. It is about big business winning. We're totally being like the people. I mean, we really don't seem to have a choice. I swear it's all in the pocket of, big business. They can call things, they make things, they sway things, they almost buy votes. So I feel like that's him. And the other 2 are like moderate. They lean moderately. So you can
Yeah.
see in their faces that they have problems with Mencken because he's just a
Yeah.
trash person.
Ethically, right?
Yeah, ethically they have scruples. They're like, shit, he is terrible.
You've got Roman, who's like completely like on one side. Kendall's kind of in the middle because he doesn't believe in Mencken, but he wants the business stuff to go through.
Right.
And then there's Shiv
Right.
like on the other,
Yeah,
on the opposite end of that.
exactly.
But what's kind of interesting is like, I mean, I definitely agree that Shiv like has always been that way and been leaning towards the Democrat, but she has personal gain on that side too now. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Like towards the
Definitely.
end, I'm questioning what is she doing it for at this point, actually, like if I want to believe it's entirely ethics, but
I don't know.
I'm not sure that's the case.
Yeah, you can't tell since she has both in the same basket, like with that.
Right.
Which, by the way, can somebody explain again, like, so if Mencken wins, is it just that he's going to, like, it kind of seemed reversed from what I was expecting, because I thought that last episode they had Nate there to represent the Democrat, like trying to get in on the party and find a way to stop the deal. But now it seems like it's the reverse, like Mencken's gonna stop the deal.
Right.
Yeah, I think they're trying to talk him into it, right? But they couldn't.
Yeah. So that Mencken's basically full on agreed, I'll tank your deal by saying it's a monopoly or whatever. And they couldn't get Nate and Jimenez. Kendall tried a little bit soon in the episode and Jimenez wouldn't say yes. I mean, I think that they could have tried, like Shiv should have tried later to see. But here's the other thing that I don't understand at this point. They don't, like, at this point, they can tank their own goddamn deal because of the numbers in India and the blood bricks. Like, they have enough stuff on him that they don't need to rely on the president to do this at this point.
They have it.
Because at least of the last episode. So that part is the part that baffles me. And you should be able to trust that you can handle that yourself. And they don't.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so it's like we're done worrying about monopolies being a problem for the Democratic candidate because it's not about politics anymore. It's just about who they've got like on their side. Right? Because typically like the Democrat would be the one you would think would be opposing a monopoly.
Yeah.
But now they're getting the Republican to oppose the monopoly. And I guess that's just because it's like a deal where like you call it for me and I'll do this for you. Right.
Right. Yeah. I had that same confusion because I assumed Democrats would be anti.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I thought. I thought it'd be the other way around. Like,
which I guess it is. And that's why they started trying with Nate, is what you're saying, Kate. And then Nate was like, fuck off. And so then they had to switch tactics.
So, but for me, that's just more confusion because it's another thing that they could depend on without having them make the deal, that they would still just, as Democrats, want to break that up.
True.
They've got a lot of stuff on their side for this deal not going through without having to sell their souls to Mencken, especially if Democrats would want to break it up anyway.
Right. But they do seem to be very like, we're just going to hop around to the next option, whatever is going to get us what we want personally the fastest and without, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I feel like they're just like, we're done with that. Let's try this. Like they don't care.
They have a short attention span. Yeah. There's no long game.
There's no line. They sell their soul for victory. They'll do whatever it takes.
Also, there are apparently what Shiv has coined Nazi vans driving around poorer areas under the guise of picking people up to vote and then driving them on the fucking highway. And here's where Roman starts with the false flagging when Shiv calls it fucking kidnapping. Shiv goes to call her side piece Mattson. She wants to release his fucked up India numbers tomorrow, but his new quote unquote normalist, Gregory Peggery, does not. I like this nickname because I have Kimberly on my phone as Kimberly Bimberly because I'm mature like that. So I enjoyed it. But anyway, Shiv's like, what the fuck? Greg's in your inner circle on this now? And so, she knows now that he likely knows that she's been working with Mattson. But on the Mattson secret front, he just wants to keep his terrible secret a secret, I was surprised that Shiv had like the balls or like she hasn't really been accepted into his team. So to be like telling him, let's release your numbers tomorrow seemed like a very bold. And Shiv gets a call from her other side piece, her actual former side piece, Nate. Nate wants to know why they're not covering all the voter intimidation. I'm surprised that he's even surprised by that. But anyway, he says numbers are pretty good, scared, but good. Pennsylvania and Arizona are looking tough. And here we hear about that disturbance in Wisconsin again. Do you want to say anything about Nate and Shiv's only scene, Kimberly?
there's just like the relationship in the past. There's like nothing anymore. There's like not even a tiny little flirtatious banter. Like it's all gone. It makes me.
I know.
It's weird. It's really weird. Like their relationship is completely different.
Yeah, it is sad that there's no flirting even in the call, you know?
Not even just like friendly kind of banter.
Right. It's all business.
Yeah.
That is strange and disappointing. I agree.
Even some of her phrasing, I don't remember specifically, but was just so like professional sounding or like
Right.
businessy and not like a friend.
Yeah, they're all business.
Right. Because they both worked in politics and it sounds like the way they would talk to other coworkers. Exactly.
Right.
Very businesslike. Roman reminds us why they want Minkin so bad because Jimenez isn't going to give a shit about the Gojo deal. But anyway, Minkin wants to meet Roman face to face. And when Kendall asks him to see if Kendall can come too, he says, nope, just Roman. Just me. Only room for me. And then Rava calls Kendall, and I really thought something bad would have happened with Sophie because they played that scene in the beginning too, you know, when they're playing previously on. So I thought something violent might happen to her, and I'm glad that it didn't. They're just scared because they're being followed by an SUV, and it turns out that's security that Kendall set on them tonight without telling them. Who does that? But all is well with Sophie and Rava, yay. They're still scared from the other news stations who are actually covering the intimidation and the fires. And Kendall signs off telling Sophie Jimenez has the numbers and he's not going to let the world hurt her. Well, you know, not for another half hour or so. You can see how much he really cares.
Yeah. I think you said last week that maybe something might happen this week. I was expecting something to happen, but yeah, it didn't, which is good. I'm glad it didn't.
I know. What happened to that shock? I was like waiting for something shocking to happen.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know where we heard it.
From a lot, like articles, like a lot of sources were like, this is going to be the most like shocking episode. And we're like,
yeah. So
so
the
I
whole
was
episode I
waiting
was
for
waiting,
it.
same.
I'm like,
This has got to be the call.
Maybe we're just so like, I mean, it's shocking to watch them do what they're doing, but it's like, yeah,
No.
that's already happening in real life.
Unfortunately, we're
Yeah, no.
we're
Beyond finding that shocking, unfortunately.
what's it called? Being
yeah, desensitized.
desensitized. Thank you. We're so desensitized.
We are.
For the moment, though, Kendall seems to care, so he calls Nate and asks to talk to Daniel, but not before Nate suggests that they actually cover the voter intimidation going on. Jimenez is willing to talk to Kendall, but Kendall just wants to, threaten's not the right word. Kendall just wants to suggest he look into tech after his win. Seems like a bad call to me to tell the incoming president what to do before you have any.
Oh, that's been happening forever.
Yeah.
They always tell, the big business always tells the president what to do.
Kendall also just seemed so like, I don't know, it was like pathetic almost the way
I
he was talking
know.
to him, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree.
It was so awkward. Like
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, this is cringy.
He was
Yeah.
like keeping him on the phone. He was like, I gotta go. And Kendall was like, and then like kept
Oh
talking.
my God, I said that. I was like, why is he still talking to him? He has to go.
Desperate.
It was really awkward. I also wrote like, take care of your own fucking problems, Kendall. Tank the deal yourself. You know, like the president doesn't give a shit about your deal at this moment in time. Why would you bother him with this? It really bothered
Yeah, exactly.
me. Meanwhile, Roman's arriving in the Minkin suite. And very ballsily, he greets Minkin as the massive fucking loser losing.
That made me laugh so much. I was just like, you fucking loser.
Imagine someone walking in and saying that to Trump. He would lose his fucking mind. It would be like, that would be amazing. I'd like that. Anyway, Minkin blames it on Roman for not delivering Connor. And speaking of delivery, Roman doesn't like running around town like some fucking food bike guy.
Food bike guy. They really
I
like the
know.
word guy. It's pretty good.
I like the word guy, as it turns out.
I
so
do too.
I'm glad.
Me too. I say it all, hi guys, all the time.
And they go off to sidebar. Minkin's line is he still thinks he can win, but he is very focused on losing. And so he wants to work on that narrative. He wants Roman to use ATN to play out the story. If I lose, I want it correctly characterized as a huge victory. Reality. Rome translates, if you're not going to be the president, you're going to be our president. It could not be more Trumpian or relevant to 2020.
Mm.
And Roman's like so on board, and it makes me hate him. And it's sad because I've always liked him, you know? And he's just like actually all the awful things that Jerry calls him when he masturbates.
Mhm.
He's really living up to that.
He is a slime puppy.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway. Greg's still following Tom around, wants to talk about the me of things. Yeah, right. He says Mattson treats him quite shitty, but he trusts him and tells him things. How should he play that for himself? But Tom just wants his coffee, which quickly morphs into cocaine, which he uses and then bullies Greg into. Poor Greg. Nothing about his life seems consensual lately.
I know.
It's like, it was really sad. Like, he tried really hard to not do the coke, right?
I
He was like, no, please,
know.
no. I don't want to get addicted 2 nights in a row. It was so
Yeah.
like,
I felt so mad at Tom for doing that.
yeah, it's fucked up. It's
Yeah.
so fucked up.
Very bullying. Although him doing it off the back of Tom's hand was funny to me. I don't know why that was funny. I was like, here, and put his hand like up under his nose.
Oh, and then he faked it, which we accused Shiv of
Oh,
doing
that's
in the
right.
previous episode. Tom also freaks out about the bodega sushi Samson brought him. He doesn't want Samson gregging for him tonight. He wants the real deal. He wants Greg gregging for him tonight.
You're busted back down to Greg tonight.
I liked when Tom said it's a long way back from pond life because you failed to get me a double shot.
Yeah, the catastrophic story about what happens if you don't get him a coffee.
Yeah.
That was a good one. Then Connor calls Tom. He's upset that they're not featuring any of their behind the scenes footage that they're sending him.
No.
And he says, maybe everyone voted for me. You don't know. I'm just as much president as the other two until you open the boxes.
Oh, Connor.
Suppose that's true. And Kentucky in particular is a state that they're hoping for about 20 seconds until ATN calls Kentucky from Minkin, which like they couldn't even drag that one out for him. It was so sad. He looked so sad. And Willa's being so sweet. She's like, fuck Kentucky. And then he's like, no, I shan't become that. Alas, Willa, alas, vanity. He's so ridiculous.
It's so great.
I really do enjoy Willa and Connor though this season
Yeah.
more than before.
She was like, you got to be in it to win it.
Yeah.
Aw, bless.
And she's got like a very like presidential wife candidate like dress on. She looks the part. Pam finds Tom asking how much attention they want to give to the voter intimidation. A big fire in Milwaukee could be nasty. And Tom just shakes his head, nah. And then the touchscreen breaks and all hell breaks loose. Tom melts down. They run to the floor. The music's so good in this episode at heightening the drama. Now the kids realize the touchscreen is malfunctioning and Ken calls Tom. Everybody's calling Tom and yelling at Tom, but he yells at Pam. Yeah, but one thing I noticed a lot lately is Tom doesn't actually like do anything at all ever.
No.
Except receive calls and
Yeah.
And he hands it to Greg or someone else
Mhm.
to sort out.
yeah, exactly. Like if they remove Tom right now, nothing would change. Everything would be fine and they'd probably save $1 million a year.
Yeah, he's just a middleman between somebody yelling at him and the person who's actually going to solve the problem.
That he's gonna yell at.
Like that's all he's really doing.
Exactly.
And it's also, I just kept thinking, this scene was like really frustrating because I was like, how many people, like he's had 2 seconds, like even if he was doing something, he had like 2
Yeah,
seconds
yeah.
to deal with the problem and Kendall's calling him. And it's like, do you think this is going to make it go faster? Like he's in the
Right.
middle of dealing with it. Just give him a second.
All these people calling is
yeah,
gonna make it not.
it's going to
yeah.
slow it down, really.
It is annoying, but it is also probably reality. So on the call with Kendall is Shiv asking why they're not covering the fire at the vote count center in Wisconsin. And then Nate's also on the line. Hi, Tom. Hey, Nate.
I think she has different phones. She had like the 2 phones out.
They're literally talking like
Like one of them had Tom on it, one of them had Nate, and she was like, yeah.
that's hilarious. I noticed later that Tom is holding like 3 phones and staring at them, but
Yeah.
I didn't know that they were being used to conference each other. Like it's 1990.
They all have so many phones. It's gotta be so confusing. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Tom defends their stance on not covering the intimidation by saying he thinks it's important to keep their unique perspective, aka Minkin bias. They need to respect their viewership, and Shiv adds, by not telling them what they don't want to hear, which is exactly what he's saying. And then Roman comes in and claims that it's the Jimenez peeps with the fire, which Shiv points out is not logical in that location. Roman just keeps saying false flag, false flag, false flag, and then makes my favorite face ever. I really do love that face.
What is a false flag, PS?
It's basically just a fake story. Like a lot of times they think these school shootings, like the Republicans think these school shootings are a false flag operation. So they think it's like something drummed up by the Democrats. Like the Democrats are doing this, like these are all crisis actors. It's not actually happening. So then they do convince, sadly, a large portion of people that these aren't real, that it's just the Democrats coming to grab your guns, that these school shootings aren't really happening.
Yeah. It's an action actually carried out with the intention of blaming an opponent for it. So,
right.
Yeah.
So that's what they're thinking. It's a false flag. So like,
well, that's what they're saying.
yeah,
I don't think they're even thinking it, but that's their story.
right.
And then Roman talks to a dude from Menken's camp who tells him to quote unquote help with the narrative. And Roman walks right down onto the floor on a mission. Shiv follows. Kendall comes next. Tom's freaking the fuck out about them being seen down there on the battlefield and tries to get Greg to play bodyguard and get them out of there. And then Shiv asks Tom for a word at the literal worst time ever. What is with these people's timing? Like, I cannot believe she chose that moment. Unless
Yeah.
there was some actual tactical reason for it. I guess there might have been. I guess she thought he
think
was
there
going to react
was.
to the pregnancy differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she needed him on her side.
Yeah,
So
you're
that's why
right.
he's like, that's why he had his reaction. He's like, is this real or is this just
Yeah.
a power play? Are you trying to manipulate me?
So he was right. It was both.
Yeah.
I think it's also to her benefit if he's thrown off his game there too, right? Because it's
Yeah.
like she wants him to be flustered, maybe.
Oh yeah. It was terrible timing.
Mhm.
But I think she was trying to make it work out for her own best interest.
Well, and I think it was kind of I don't think she walked in there planning to say that either. It was just because he didn't apologize, right? And so then she said, well,
Right.
fuck you, I'm pregnant. You know, like that's what it seemed like.
Well, it was like her final grasp to get him back to her. Cause I think she's realized that she's beat him over the head so much that he's
Yeah.
finally staying down and he's just done. And so then she's like, use that to kind of ignite something. Cause she used to be able to have him like under her thumb. And now he's his own man now. He's not Shiv's husband, you know,
Mhm.
and she's having a hard time. So she's trying to like, oh, I have your baby, you know, like come back to me in a weird way.
Manipulate him again.
Yeah. So I can use you as one of my chess pieces.
Yeah.
Yep. Predictable at this point.
Mm-hmm.
He even knows that.
Watching Greg trying to wrangle the kids like for the rest of the episode was so freaking funny.
Yeah.
He was like, here, we've got a VIP room, like up here. Come on, everyone.
Yeah.
And like no one's listening to him, poor Greg. When they were on the phone before, Tom hands the phone to Greg and like Kendall and Shiv are like, why the fuck would we want to talk to Tom? I mean, why the fuck would we want to talk to Greg? So like
Yeah. We're not talking to Greg.
they both hang up. Like, oh
Yeah.
Yeah, I literally had in my notes, he says, happy to be your link up guy. And then Shiv and Ken just look at each other and hang up the phone.
Yeah.
Great. They don't give a shit.
Nope. All right, so Shiv and Tom's staring at his 3 phones until she says she wants to apologize. And then he looks up, but his face is still displeasing to her. And he threatens to blab about her and Mattson. He's a total prick throughout the entire conversation. Even when she reveals she's pregnant with his baby, she felt the need to add, which makes sense. And for like a split second, I thought I saw him start to have his like nice Tom Shiv face.
yeah, there was a little moment.
And then reset.
Well, it's something he's wanted. I mean, that was
Yeah.
his like end game for their relationship was like a baby. And now he has it, but he also doesn't trust it. Like he's like,
Right.
are you fucking with me? You know, you would after
Yeah.
he would totally be like, I could see you being like, I'm pregnant, and then like me doing everything you ask, and then you being like, just kidding, because she's kind of abusive like that.
Kind of, yeah. She's very
So it's no wonder he's like that.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, they both are, but yeah.
Not kind of, she is.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I felt like his reaction was appropriate
Yeah.
because I was like, of course you wouldn't think that it was such a weird time for her to say it, the way
So
she
weird.
said it, everything, you'd question the whole thing for sure.
Yeah, and then she, like, even if it was, you know, the timing was a tactic, which seems true. It really, like, I think it really hurt her deeply when his reaction and lack of any sort of affection or
Mhm.
excitement or positive.
Yeah.
He just doesn't believe her.
I wonder too if she's kind of realizing that he completely doesn't trust her anymore too.
Yeah.
Like, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like if he's not
Right.
even gonna believe this.
Right. Like she's beat him down so much, he's staying down. That's what I said.
Mhm.
And then she's like, shit.
Yeah.
Like, uh-oh. Sometimes you do
Right.
strike a final blow. So
There is actually a line, yeah.
it seems like the final blow has been struck and Tom is fully like detached.
Right.
Even so detached that he can't grasp, like everything that he wanted was that baby. And he's so detached that he's not even clinging to that.
She did a job on him.
Yep.
Mhm.
It seems like she's like barely keeping from sobbing when she walks off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's a brief sibling moment where Roman offers to have Tom killed for her, which is sweet.
Isn't that the second time they've done that in the season?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Roman wants
Yeah.
to kill him.
Yeah.
And she calls him a piece of filth right before he walks through them. And then she finishes with, they just can't trust him. And I think that's because she's scared he's going to tell them about Mattson. So now she's like back to politically thinking
Mm-hmm.
about herself,
That's a great point. I hadn't thought of that.
her own future.
I think she wanted to tell them about the pregnancy as well, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
I wondered that too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because she said there's like some things I want to tell you, but
Yeah. But then obviously Tom and them started walking towards, and probably not the best time anyway.
even when he walked through then, I expected there to be like a more kind face towards her, like after he'd let it sink in a little,
Mhm.
but there wasn't. He looked like mean. He gave her like a mean look as he walked by. I was like, wow, he's doubling down. He's done, like you said, Megan.
Mm-hmm.
Roman makes a racist as fuck joke everybody is horrified by, even at ATN, while they watch the fire coverage, and Tom begs once again for Greg to get them the fuck out of there, the siblings. Connor then calls Roman and wants another stab at those ambassador gigs, which were solely a yesterday thing, but Roman says he'll get back to him, and that his rhymes were compelling. You think he came up with those on the spot? Those were good. Those were good rhymes.
Yeah.
They were good. They were cute.
I was glad Roman called them compelling rather than just let them go. Then Shiv determines that Wisconsin cannot be certified until the absentee votes are counted. The absentee votes that have just burnt to a crisp. And Roman comes in and says, nah, Minkin says they're done. That's their position. But there are 100,000 votes missing, and Roman does not care. And he wants to call Wisconsin for Minkin now. He then reveals the thing, as Shiv calls it. They only care about the Gojo deal being fucked. And Shiv's basically like, don't be such a horribly immoral fucking human being to care more about this deal than the future of the country your daughter's going to grow up in, Kendall. And then Tom comes in and tells him that the far, far right news orgs that nobody gives a fuck about are declaring it for Minkin.
By absentee votes, do they just mean like peeps who like mailed in their vote?
Yeah, so if like you can't be there on that day, you can still vote and mail it in. And actually, like now mail-in voting is more common. I don't know if it's post-COVID or what, but even if you don't have a good excuse, you can mail in your votes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and a lot of people did it during COVID, and then you get on the list of like having the absentee ballots mailed to you. So we had ours mailed last time too.
Same. Yeah.
It just makes it easier with the gerrymandering that's gone on too. They've gerrymandered so many places that makes it very hard to vote in person. So that's why we do a lot of mail-in ballots, because obviously it's easier to just fill it out and stuff it in a mailbox. I'm always been like, well, what if it goes missing? You know, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
always worried. I always have to go in there and do it on the day.
Yeah.
Or go in even before when they have that. But I'm just like an election day voter because I'm like,
Yeah. I get that.
I don't know. Yeah. Sadly distrustful for some reason.
Right.
For some reason.
Do we know why it was just the absentee votes that got like fried?
It's the place where they had them, where they're receiving them, right?
Yeah. It was devoted to that.
Also, it wasn't the place where people were going to like vote on the day. It was
No,
just for
right.
that. Okay, gotcha. Because that's what I was confused about. I was like, why wouldn't there be more? Like, you know?
Right. Yeah. No, it's just meant for counting absentee ballots like all day long. Volunteers are in there
Gotcha.
doing that. And then because it's in a city, they know that it was likely gonna, be democratic. So
Jimenez. Yeah.
seemed like a good tactical choice if you were going to be a horribly unethical, immoral human being.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a quick scene with Hugo screaming at Jimenez on the screen about being boring. And then Darwin comes in to help Shiv argue the case against calling Wisconsin while they're missing 100,000 votes. And he's the one that says, Milwaukee always votes Democratic. So it's fairly obvious what side is being hurt by this and therefore did it. Like you can't do a false flag here because it's the actual numbers that matter and they're going to determine,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Is this the part where he says, flop your dick out, pop a nut, do something?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, that was in the Hugo scene. Yeah.
Yeah, the Hugo says it. That was funny.
It's very like visceral.
Yeah. Don't like the visual on that. No.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I didn't either. He did seem kind of boring though.
I love how all the old blokes are just in their room, like just watching it, like chilling, watching it.
Yeah, like they can't do anything about it. They're just
Yeah.
watching it like we do.
Yeah, they're watching Rome burn. They're just like, what else can we do?
Just giving their commentary, snarky commentary.
Front row seat.
Yeah, I'm glad they included it.
Mhm.
We don't see them much,
It's random poppins.
but it's great.
Yeah.
I think in the scene where Shiv and Roman are fighting about the, counting all the votes, and Shiv is like,
Yeah.
every vote must be counted, and Roman's like, eh.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's just like, wow, he's
Annoying.
awful now. He's awful. He was always awful, but in a new way.
Yeah. I do like in that scene though when Tom calls Shiv unhinged and Kendall plays big bro and
Oh.
is like, you fucking watch it, Tom. That was nice.
I love that. It was so fun.
That was the only nice moment like between siblings.
Yeah.
Well, especially because of what happens later. Like, that was good. That was an interesting contrast to the later stuff.
Very nice last moment of their relationship, yes.
Mm-hmm.
You say that every time.
Because they make it seem like it's happening every time.
I do feel like this is it for them for a while. We'll see.
Yeah, well, we've got the funeral next week, right?
I mean, after they brought Kendall back in, after what Kendall did to them, though, anybody can come back from anything, really.
Yeah.
You mean when Kendall, like, which time?
Any of them. Pick one, yeah.
Exactly. Exactly the point.
Although, to be fair, the second time, like, Logan was gonna send him to jail, so I
Yeah,
feel like that one was a bit more like I sympathize with him.
totally. And I think everybody else, in a way, kind of, even if it wasn't convenient, saw it kind of like as a power move on Kendall's part.
Yeah.
So
Uh-huh.
I'm sure that they had some respect for that.
Yeah. I guess what I'm hoping is that this is rock bottom for this season. And then like the next 2 episodes, they bounce back like a little bit. I know they're not going to be like early season friendly and loving, but like it would be nice if they don't end it
Not gonna happen.
hating
No.
each other. So you think they're just going to hate each other
Yes. I think it's gonna get worse.
at the end? Oh.
I don't think they hit rock bottom yet.
No, I don't think so either.
I'm waiting for rock bottom.
I think maybe next week,
Yeah.
because of the funeral, something might go down.
Yeah.
Well, and just, okay, the implication of what's going to happen now that, when they call the election, shit's going to happen next week.
Yeah.
America would not stand for votes being burned and not counted. It's like going to be an all-out war outside. Like, honestly.
Yeah. What the fuck am I thinking? It's going to get happier. Oh, damn it.
Protests, mass protests, probably
Yeah.
right outside the funeral.
I do think Tom's going to get shot, which I said to you guys on
Yeah, something's
chat
going
because
down.
at the end when they have his face on the news
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
got like his
Yep.
name and he's like, that seems really pointed. And I'm
Yeah.
like, and they know where to find you tomorrow too.
Yeah, exactly.
Idiots.
They're pissed.
When you said that, I had like a really sad thought that like Greg and Tom will be talking and they'll be aiming for Tom and they'll hit Greg instead.
Something's gonna
Oh.
happen. I could see that. Yeah, it's shit's hitting the fan. There's gonna be angry protesters, violence. I mean, we've already seen that in our in our country. I've had my city infiltrated with like the army tanks because of
Jesus.
George Floyd, and we were under we had a curfew.
Curfew.
We had to be under
Yeah.
curfew. I mean, I know what it's like to get stuff that goes out of hand, and I think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's so scary.
Yeah.
I also saw that Ewan is coming back next episode.
Oh,
yeah.
So it'll be good to see him.
Yeah, I saw him. He reminds me of Kimberly's pops, her grandfather.
Oh, really?
I like when I see his face. Yeah, I remember at some point I was casting the movie of your life and he played him, I think.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Have you guys seen Babe?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've forgotten that was him.
I love that's my favorite.
That's him. Yeah.
That'll do, pig. That'll
I
do.
love that movie.
I love that.
Oh, that'll do, Piggy.
Man, my kids haven't seen that in forever.
Am I correct in saying that that's an Australian movie?
I think it's definitely not.
It's not American.
His wife is an Aussie actress that usually doesn't do like overseas stuff, so I'm gonna have to look that.
Yeah, I think it might be.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yep. As countries are Australia, United States, and United Kingdom, so it must have been
Filmed quite a few places.
co-production of some
Yeah.
sort. Yeah, but Australia was the top one listed here. So
You did good. That'll do, Australia.
That'll do.
It's so funny looking into those movies because like you see how many pigs like they actually had to use because obviously the piglet's growing really quickly, so they had to keep like changing the pig.
Yeah.
Like I want to meet all those piggies.
That's true. And then Pam comes in to call their attention to Mark on ATN, planting Roman and Minkin's talking points. Crazy biased. He's like a Tucker Carlson figure, I guess. And then Shiv heads down to the floor again. She's furious with Roman and she's demanding that they have to have an opposing viewpoint. He ignores her and walks off, and Shiv calls Mattson. And Kendall's followed her as far as the stairs. Maybe he's listening to Greg and unwilling to step on the floor. Just kidding. But he's on the stairs and Roman walks by telling him he's not feeling great about this. And Kendall's just like so paralyzed this episode. It's very interesting.
He's so just like out of it, right? It looks like he's staring into the abyss like I do most of the time. Like he's just like,
Yeah.
He's just so torn. And I feel like that's what I see. Like he is completely torn to the point where he's like paralyzed by it. Like the indecisiveness in him. He knows Mencken is like just awful, but he also has his own best self-interest in mind. So he's really like struggling with that. You can see it. That's why he's just frozen. Like, what the fuck? Do I unleash this madman to America or tank our deal? I mean, they're all so fucked up this episode. I hate them all this episode. They're all pieces of shit.
Roman's so the opposite. Roman's so decisive and like plowing forward that it's just like
he's fine with it.
He's steamrolling over everybody and nobody's able to do it. If Kendall's not going to stop him, you know.
Oh, he's full on Nazi this episode. He's like, I don't care. I'll tank it.
It's sad.
I feel like Kendall also, I was thinking about this morning, like, I feel like he can somehow like compute this to be, because at the beginning, you know, he tells his daughter that Jimenez is going to win. And that's obviously what would be best for her.
Mm-hmm.
So when he's telling that to her, it's like, you know, I'll protect you. I'll make sure that Jimenez wins or whatever. But then later, and because he's said it in this episode and in the last episode, like, I'm doing it all for you. I'm doing this all for you. I feel like he's almost convincing himself like, oh, well, doing this with the company kind of is for her. Like this twisted way of thinking, like, even if it is Mencken, it's kind of like, I'm not saying that he cares. I'm saying that he can reconcile the fact that he cares for a second with like, it's still for them. I can still say that.
Right.
I can still pretend like that's true because I'm saving the company or, you know, doing what I think is best for the company and for myself and my like inheritance, you know?
Right. He's like, money is power. So he's like, my family will be protected no matter what. Like he's just doing it. Like my daughter will be protected. People that look like my daughter will not, but at least my daughter will. So that's his thing. Like, because my money, my protection, my people, but really that's not going to protect her at all because she'll see what's going on. I mean, I
also think that he, at that point, it's because he knows that that he's going to care more about his own self-interest than about his own kid.
Yep.
That's like the way that he could reconcile it in his mind to be like, even though it's completely ridiculous,
right,
that it's not better for her to do this. But he's like, maybe it is, like, just so that he can get past his own feeling about it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it's just so fucked up though.
Mm-hmm.
I can't like forgive him. He's such bad.
No,
they're all so bad this episode. I hate every one of them. They're all so greedy and bitchy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so up their own asses. That's the problem with them. They're all so into their own shit that's going on personally.
Right, that's all they care about.
They're just like, Shiv has her deals going on and Kendall and Rome just doesn't give a fuck about anyone or anything. And they're just not even thinking clearly about what's best for everyone, unfortunately.
Well, and there's almost like not another level up you can go aside from like dictating who wins a presidential election for your own self-interest. Like that's like the height of selfishness.
Yeah. Now Shiv and Greg have a little heart-to-heart. They have never been close, like we discussed, and that does not seem to be changing anytime in the near future. He asks would it be worth to keep his mouth shut about her and Mattson, and she says it'd be worth keeping his insides on the inside of his body rather than pulling them out of his asshole.
And not a smart move for her.
No.
Yeah.
She should have definitely used a different strategy.
Yeah.
Was Greg and Shiv scene, was that where she says she asks him, like, do you find me attractive, Greg, or something like that? She goes in
Yeah.
with that weird shit. Why do you reckon she did that?
I have no idea. It was weird. He even like
Yeah.
Greg's like, this is fucking weird. Like, you're my cousin. What?
Yeah.
I think she was just setting up the "you're gonna fuck me" joke.
Yeah, she was.
Right. It was like she wanted to make him uncomfortable.
Yeah, he was what she did. Made him
Right.
super uncomfortable. And it worked.
And she calls him the disgusting brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just so weird. I was like, when she said it, I was like, what?
Well, so that's what she wanted. She wanted him to be like
Yeah.
shocked, like taken aback, like what the fuck? And then she just nailed him with the delivery
Yeah.
because you're gonna fuck me, like, oh, she didn't play that well, I don't think, but whatever.
No, and he wasn't, usually he is, what's the word? Not inferior, but
Submissive too, like
yes,
her-
thank you.
Mhm.
Usually he's submissive to people that bully him like this,
Mhm.
and he's not with her in this case. So
Oh.
Well, and it's another person underestimating him too,
Mhm.
right.
like underestimating his influence and everything. And
It's
Right.
like, gosh, you guys are so stupid. Like Greg has been saying it for forever. Just fucking supply me with money and I'll do
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
you want. Like, I don't
Right.
know. Like, just throw money at him and he'll be your bitch,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Roman tells Kendall that Minkin has promised to straight up blow the Gojo deal in exchange for their support tonight. And Kendall looks extremely uncomfortable. Darwin tells Roman that he can't make that call until Darwin does, and Darwin doesn't feel comfortable making that call. But Roman says he's calling it, and then Tom's all, you can't call it, I call it. And Roman's like talking to a child. We'll call it together, okay? Darwin doesn't want to, but he agrees that as long as there's some graphic making it clear that it's not a call, a pending call, Tom will call it. And there's this whole wasabi lemon water thing when Shiv comes in and hears that they're calling it. It's not very lemony. That was my favorite.
Yeah.
She pours acid water in his eye. Like at first I was like, is this just like a funny like skit? But it is also throwing like Darwin off at a time in which he needs to not be distracted to make this call.
Once again, Greg and Tom's whole interaction in this scene was great. Like, it's just LaCroix. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think we actually saw, because when it did flash up where it says, they did call it, I don't remember that seeing like pending. So like it was weird.
No.
Like they didn't actually show that bit.
Yeah, I don't think so. Also later, like after they call the presidency, somebody's like, okay, and now you want us to put Darwin's caveats up there? And
Yeah.
Tom was like, nah, fuck that. But that was part of the deal in calling the presidency was that he was able to caveat it. So he's just saying whatever the fuck Darwin wants to hear and then not doing it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And now Connor's arrived on the scene and he's willing to concede. Another thing for Roman to check on. He follows Roman into the sibling room and Tom tells the room that they're calling Wisconsin. And then Roman gets the green light for the concession idea. So Minkin is actually going to, I guess, trade an ambassadorship to Connor in exchange for him conceding on ATN to keep with his momentum for the win. And it turns out to be Slovenia, I guess.
yeah.
I think so.
Does it mean, like, this is just a stupid question because I don't know how this works, but like, if he concedes, what happens to his votes?
Nothing.
Okay. So how does it help Mencken for him to concede then?
Because he's going to say, like, I can see that Minkin is winning, so I'm conceding to Minkin, like, not Jimenez. So, like, people watching will be like, oh, shit, like, they think that it's going towards Minkin, sort of.
Gotcha.
And it just helps his momentum, even though it's a non-fucking event. It's just giving somebody of slight import an opportunity to say Minkin's winning, I think.
It's like a marketing thing almost.
Right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
totally.
Okay.
Because he can't just be like, okay, my 1% goes to Minkin now. No.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was like, what? Okay. I see. That makes sense.
Yeah, so in the makeup chair, we learn, I guess, unless he's joking, that they're going to be going to Slovenia.
Yeah.
As usual, Willa's whole role is like coming around to something that she's not like super excited about, but she's willing to like get there.
She was saying like they can go on like trips to like Venice and
Mhm.
Yeah,
somewhere for breakfast, somewhere for lunch, somewhere for dinner. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Money is what motivates her too.
Also, honestly, I'd be ready to be out of the country
Yeah,
if that was going to happen too. So like,
Yeah.
very good point. Good time to leave.
yeah.
His actual speech goes pretty far off the rails, in my opinion. But my favorite part was one of those few little peeks into the old guard room when Frank asked Connor was running for president. I enjoyed that.
That was so funny. I laughed my ass off. So good. I love Frank.
I do too. We haven't gotten enough Frank and Carl later in the season.
I know. I miss them.
Me too. And Connor signs off questionably. And so I call out to my friends tonight, to my people. I say, conheads, I salute you. And America, be afraid, be warned, for the conheads are coming. Willa looks afraid anyway. It just sounds like Trump in the January 6th speech, you know? Not that the conheads will do anything about it, but what did he say to the Proud Boys? Stand back
and stand by. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's down to Alaska and Arizona now. And Tom and Darwin come in to say Minkin's going to get Arizona. So with their Wisconsin call, that means Minkin will be president of the United States per ATN. Darwin is extremely uncomfortable calling the entire presidential race, considering the Wisconsin situation and those votes that aren't being counted. And Kendall's also very uncomfortable. He vetoes it and asks for the room to talk to Roman. They have this quick parenting discussion on tantrums and chicken and steak, which Ken translates as, so because we had so much chicken when we were kids, I have to like the fascists. And Roman points out if he wins and we didn't help him, he's not going to treat them like special. Kendall's scared if they push it that they would actually make him win, you know, what with his kids and all. And when he says, it is kind of a nice idea, you know, all the different people together. I liked that line. Anyway, the whole argument is Roman doesn't give a shit about America. Kendall seems to care a little bit, but he's still torn between his own interests. Very torn. The whole episode, he's very unkindle-like. So he actually goes to Shiv for advice, and he's excessively honest. Tells her he's been thinking lately of CEOing on his own and boxing them out officially, I guess. But he wants to keep the family thing too. He'd just like to be able to talk openly about that feeling. He's like using her as a therapist. Tells her he feels threatened by Minkin's relationship with Rome, and she tells him that he's also essentially a good guy. Focus on that piece. And she points out whatever short-term advantage business-wise we get from Minkin, the reality is Minkin is the nightmare. He says the bad shit. He believes the bad shit. And our call could give him momentum to make him the leader of America. And when Kendall admits he doesn't think he's a very good father, she starts to say that he is. I was like, you were not going to tell him he's a good father, are you?
Yeah.
And she backs off and says, you're all right. You tried. I mean, he's about as good of a father as she is a pet owner. So.
Right.
And then they get to, you know, another huge point for them when Shiv says she doesn't think even Dad would back Minkin at this point. But Kendall still can't like stand the thought of giving it all to Mattson, asks her to call Nate and Jimenez and see if they might help with the deal. And then they do one of these, their new huggy things. It's funny. I'm gonna do one of these thingies.
One of my favorite lines of the episode actually was when they were talking about Kendall Kendall said he's not a very good father, and Kendall was like, maybe the poison drips through, talking about Logan.
Yeah. That is such a good line. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Maybe that is what happened.
I don't think he's as bad as well, I don't know. Is what's it worse to be an asshole parent or just to be absent all the time? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe absent.
I think an asshole is worse.
Asshole's worse.
Yeah, the way he pitted them against each other.
Right.
Yeah, I think that would be the case. So good job, Kendall. You're edging out Logan very slightly.
Just, little margins.
And Shiv goes to fake call Nate, which is so fucking stupid. I get so mad at this part because she's also putting the deal above the country, and she's just acting stupidly. She could have just called him and like felt out the situation, and it wouldn't have meant like anything in the long term, right?
No.
Just ask him, right? He'll say whatever. It doesn't matter.
She has not been doing the right thing this episode at all.
And I hate when people lie in completely disprovable ways too. She doesn't even lie well. She's so fucking vague. It's very obvious that she didn't have a fucking conversation with him. Like either call him or lie well, or there's just so many. I hate what she did. It's so stupid.
I did think she lied better than Roman and Kendall do, though.
Not here. I think she
No.
does usually, but here I was like appalled at what was happening.
No, I mean like in general. In
Yeah.
general,
Oh, yeah.
I feel like Roman and Kendall are like horrible liars.
Yes, they are.
The bar's like really low, but
Right.
Kendall's the worst.
Yeah.
He basically just confesses. Like he's like, look, like you're looking at me, I confess, you know?
Yeah.
The worst.
It's honestly so weird that they're bad liars because I feel like they build their entire,
Growing up in that.
I guess if they can make themselves believe it, then that's the thing, right? So it's like they just
Yeah.
make themselves believe despicable things.
I think Roman's the best.
Right.
Roman's the best liar. He lies to himself.
I think Shiv was like really good with Mattson up until this episode, lying about the Mattson situation. But
Yeah.
this was painful to watch. And of course he's gonna like call her fucking out on it. It's so stupid.
And even when Kendall walked out of the room, I was like, text Nate really fast and tell him that you talk to me.
I know. Just say, I'll do it. You know, I don't know. Grab the phone out of his hand, crush it, whatever. You can't let him call him.
Or just
Yeah.
as Kendall's walking away, just send a quick text to Nate, like, I don't know. I
Please
was just
cover
thinking
for
of all
me.
these crazy things. Like, yeah, like,
Yeah.
cover for me. Like, just tell him I talked to you, whatever.
Right. It was very stressful because she's smart.
But it also made, yeah, like you're saying, it made no sense for her not to just make that call because that's what she wanted anyway. Right? Like,
I mean, she in theory wants the deal to go through. So she doesn't want to ask Jimenez to stop the deal, but it wouldn't matter right now, no matter what she said to him. This is a long-term thing that's going to happen, you know? You could just say, hey, do you think he'd be open to it?
well, and she wants she wants them to not let Mencken win, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, she wants them to not back Mencken, her family. So
Right.
even
Yeah.
though the deal might get fucked a little bit, it's like, well, so that kind of shows that she's more personally motivated than politically motivated.
Right. That's the implication here, is that she cares more about the deal than America. And that was weird because you
Right.
didn't think that watching her, you know?
Exactly. This was the moment where you're like, wait, oh, she doesn't give a shit.
Yeah. It's really disappointing all around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so she fucked it up royally and it all falls apart for good here. If she just called Nate, god damn it. Anyway, yeah, Roman and Shiv, I do like this scene though, and how they did it, like with Kendall outside the glass as she's watching, and you can't hear his calls, but you fucking know what's happening. And Roman and Shiv are arguing, and I can like not even focus on them either. It's funny that Shiv is able to reply at all as she's watching it fall apart.
Kendall's face was so good through the glass. I was
Oh,
like,
I know. It hurt me.
I was like,
I was like, ouch.
Gosh.
That like just killed me.
Mm,
It was amazing. He's so good.
He is.
yeah.
But yeah, so after he gets off the phone, like he looks at her and walks over to Greg, and who Shiv just refused to bribe 10 minutes ago. And then Kendall comes in and confronts her. And Roman's watching, trying to figure out what happened, getting excited quickly, as Kendall just bluntly states she's in with Mattson. And he's shocked though. Roman was very shocked. And then Kendall further dumbs it down. Shiv's fucking us, right, Shivy? I called her Shivy. And then as Shiv desperately tries to explain, Roman just says Mencken, right? And Kendall agrees Mencken. They call Tom in, tell him to call it while Shiv's protesting no. And Tom's story's changed here. It's no longer his call anymore. It's their call to make. The opposite of what he said earlier. And she calls him Pontius Pilate. And then Tom calls Greg, I guess, to relay the message to go tell the room that they're calling it for Mencken, as he like looks at Shiv and fucks her.
Just going back to like the Shiv and Greg talk, like it was so interesting to me because obviously she must know that Kendall is like one of the only ones that have ever like acknowledged Greg and
Mhm.
like sort of had on his side.
Right.
And so it was like she was just so clueless in that moment that obviously Greg is going to rat her out.
Right.
Yeah.
If Kendall asks Greg.
Yeah, it was so stupid.
Yeah, he has no allegiance to her.
Yeah.
But that was her one
exactly.
opportunity to get Greg on her side.
Yeah.
Well, Kendall's been Greg's only lifeline,
Yeah, exactly.
you know, so why would he betray that? The other two
Yeah.
are just like, you're a fuckwad, you know, they treat him as such. So he's like, okay, well, Kendall, yeah, I mean, he's probably pretty much there because of Kendall.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah, she didn't play the cards right.
I didn't notice this, but my brother said that Greg's smirk over his shoulder at Shiv as he walks away from
Mhm.
Kendall was like really good. And then Jess and Greg have a moment of complete shock. Jess even suggests that he stall because he's about to launch a nuclear attack. It was sad, but it was interesting that they took that, like, you know, it felt like a longish scene for the two of them to be like just taking it in and
Yeah.
like, I can't fucking believe this.
Yeah.
Because that's how we felt before. And even the guys look depressed as ATM declares the unlikely win and then features Mencken's victory speech. Tom might have a momentary conscience for like a second when he says that maybe they should get a history guy to say how this might have happened in the past, and then it'll all be fine. So like everybody's watching, everybody that was on his side, everybody's watching and thinking, holy shit, we're so fucked, you know? And Menken's final speech is pretty like against everything that they're actually doing right now with ATN, but Kendall translates it into that's a guy we can do business with. And Roman says we just made a night of good TV. Nothing happens. And then Shiv says things do happen. Darkly as shit before she walks out. She said like that was great delivery. It was very scary.
I love the way she said that. Yeah.
She knows the fallout is coming. She knows it's coming. She's like,
yeah,
just wait, guys. Shit's gonna hit the fan. So she knows it. She's like, it does have implications, what you did.
Yeah.
And we will probably see it in the penultimate and the finale, how that all comes out to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Menken calls Roman to thank him. Kendall looks depressed as fuck. I don't know. I mean, I think it's in part because he's helped Menken, but also maybe because the Rome-Menken relationship too. Like he's not in control anymore, even with this win.
Well, they've got to be real close, right, for him to like literally just basically win the presidency, and then him calling Roman like almost straight away. Like that's
Maybe Mencken will be shot. I don't know. I'm trying to think of what's gonna go.
That's what my brother was saying. I really think it'll be Tom, but
anything can happen at this point. That's what brilliant writing does, where you really are like, what is gonna happen? I have so many scenarios, they all make sense, and you just don't know what way it's gonna go. And it probably won't go any other direction in what you thought.
I was really looking forward to watching this episode on Sunday. And in the end, it was very uncomfortable to watch.
Oh gosh.
But I am getting to the point where I'm like really eager to find out what happens.
It's gonna be great.
How it's all gonna end. Greg brings Tom's phone in because a lot of important people want to scream at him as he sees his own picture come up on another news program with the headline, ATN head blasted for premature projection. And they question whether there was a personal or political agenda to his decision. Yes, his wife pissed him off. And that is why I think he will be shot, because of the focus on like him and all of his information and stuff there.
Right. He's the ball guy.
Right. And he said that seems rather pointed. Tom also cancels Darwin's caveats here that he had insisted on about, we're calling it even though there's 100,000 votes missing in Wisconsin. And then Lucas is reeling from the election call, as Shiv calls him, pissed off, just wanting to team up with Mattson and fuck her brothers tomorrow. Speaking of which, tomorrow is the funeral. Why on earth would they plan it the day after the election? It's like so crazy. I do like how I guess the season is 10 consecutive days. Like that's very cool. But you would never plan a funeral the day after you're going to be up all night with this like huge event going on, and then there'll be no attention. I mean, there'll still be attention because it's them, but it would be distracted, very much so.
Maybe that was just as far as they could continue to put their dad on ice.
Keep
waiting.
the body. Yeah.
Yeah.
Time's up, kids. You got to take him now. Anyway, now I'm excited to see the funeral. And also another reason I think that Tom's gonna get shot is because the trailer for the next episode was like pretty boring. And it's not gonna be boring,
right? So
I'm like, something big is being hidden. And then Kendall's final line in the whole episode is, some people just can't cut a deal. Ficret, who is his driver. Do you think he's disappointed in himself, or what is that?
I think he is. He has the worst timing. Like Kendall has great ideas, but the worst timing.
I guess he just really wanted, his ideal situation would have been getting Jimenez to agree to like kill the deal and then voting him in. But it's just so stupid again.
Just never works out.
That's another example of him just like jumping so quickly from thing to thing based on his emotions. Like he called Nate, found out that Shiv hadn't called Nate, and instead of trying to work the thing that he was wanting Shiv to do,
he abandoned it and got pissed off.
He just goes right back to Mink and is like, forget it. Like, we're just going with Minkin. Like, he didn't even try.
Because I'm mad at my sister.
Exactly.
Yeah. He just lashed out.
Literally, like, the future of America is being determined by dysfunctional siblings being mad at each other. So crazy.
By who's mad at who and what side each person is on when they're mad.
Yeah. I just want to spite her. Like, that's it. That's what it comes down to in the end.
Yep.
That's so crazy. America does not choose.
So when Mattson was on the phone with Shiv, why did they want to announce the numbers tomorrow, the funky numbers?
I think just because the world is going to be so distracted by
this
sudden sudden Trump winning that had not been what the polls said was going to happen. It's just going to like throw massive chaos into the world. So if you're going to release bad news, you should do it at a time when nobody's looking at you.
Right. So you can bury it.
Yeah.
They can bury the story.
It's like a drop in the bucket sort of situation.
It seems like a big deal if they've, doubled the numbers of India or whatever. So
Nobody will care. Nobody will even hear about it.
yeah.
But comparatively, not a big deal, right? Like that's the idea.
Right.
I do wonder what Shiv's plan is though, because obviously
If the deal's going to be blown up anyway, I mean.
if the deal's going to be blown up anyway.
By Minkin. Yeah.
So I think she said she's going to fuck them so hard. I'm like,
Yeah.
I really wonder
How are you going to do that?
I wonder what her plan is. Yeah.
Maybe if she's trying to, I don't know, but I'm wondering if by her announcing it and getting it in at a time when the world's distracted, she can avoid fallout from it for some reason, or like avoid them using it as part of their play with Mencken because it'll already have happened. I don't know.
I don't know either, but it's a very good question.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, she may just want a job with Mattson at this point because she doesn't probably have a job at Waystar at the moment. I don't know.
Yeah.
Any other predictions for the next episode?
I just don't know how they're going to wrap it up in 2 episodes.
I don't think it's going to feel like fully wrapped up.
No.
2 episodes in probably 2 days, unless the finale spans over a longer
Right.
time.
Did they say? I think the finale was supposed to be longer. I don't know where
An
I.
hour and a half.
Yeah.
Like 90 minutes,
Okay.
I think.
It's like a mini movie, like a perfectly timed movie.
Yeah.
Love 90-minute movies.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. Tight
Mhm.
90s.
Yeah.
I love when my nieces come over and like it's a movie that I don't want to watch, but usually it's like a kids movie and it's usually like 89 minutes. And I'm like,
Yeah.
That's great.
It's crazy if they're like some of the older ones, like, I don't know. I think maybe like we were going to watch Land Before Time or something. I'm not sure if it was that one or not,
It's
but it's
like
like
in the
75
70s.
minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, oh shit.
It's great.
I did not remember that at all.
Is that the dinosaur movie?
Yeah.
Time Before Time?
Freaking love that movie.
Oh, so cute.
It's a good one. All right. Maybe the whole show will end on like a hug from the siblings. What do you think?
That would be nice.
You're so positive about this. You're just so too positive. You're very scary.
Yeah.
You're scaring.
It hurts me in the end.
She's trying to manifest it.
Oh, my theory is like, well, one of the many that I have is that they'll end up, fulfilling like Logan's life cycle. Like they'll end up totally fractured, where one of them is like just off the grid, totally removed, like Ewan is.
Ewan, yeah.
One suicides or dies,
like Rose.
and then the other just takes complete control. Mm-hmm.
Oh. Well, that's so depressing, Megan.
I know. We'll see. I'm probably totally wrong.
But it would be interesting.
I
No.
could definitely see that.
Come back full circle. They just keep, repeating the cycle.
I mean, with the poison drips down line too, like that
Mhm.
obviously implies that.
Yeah.
I feel like it won't be Kendall either because he's just never quite got there. And I don't think he will get there.
I just don't know what's going to happen.
I don't either. Okay, I think that's a wrap on our discussion of season 4, episode 8 of Succession. Come back next week for the penultimate episode. We're very excited. Thanks for listening. Bye.